Oh, hi, Linda.
Hi.
Oh, your hair looks great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Lua can't make it tonight.
Okay.
She did sit in on the Public Art Committee, which was helpful because Daryl couldn't make all of them.
Elizabeth, how are you?
Hey, hello, hello. Doing good, good. How are you doing?
Good.
All the plants are getting a good drink today.
They are. Hey, Paige. I heard that you're going to be doing a concert of sorts in my neighborhood with Sharon Charbonnel.
Yes, yes. She booked our little band for
So
her
it's,
neighborhood party.
I'm so excited.
Oh, me too. Me too. It's been a long time since we've played.
I'm saving the date.
Good. I'm glad. Let's get this up and open all the way.
Sally, should we give it a couple more minutes?
Maybe just one more minute and then we'll just get going.
Okay.
Of course, unless we need a quorum for the minutes.
We would need a quorum for the minutes, but we can just skip past that and hope that other people get on.
Well,
Boy, did you guys have you seen the big sidewalk they're putting at kind of just past Steilacoom Boulevard and Lakewood Drive? You know, the corner there where Bates is, and not Bates, Clover Park Tech.
No, I haven't.
okay.
Oh my goodness, it's a great big sidewalk. It looks so good.
Oh.
Yeah, kind of by Lockburn, you know, as you go around the corner.
Okay.
That cemetery's right there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's just it's really good looking. It's amazing how a sidewalk just changes everything.
Oh, it does. It makes it all look so finished.
It really does. It's just like I was just like, and then I noticed there was one of those little, you know, boxes over there, one of those little uh, grid boxes. I was like, ooh, you know.
Yeah, down Veterans Drive. It's really nice with all the
Oh, I bet.
sidewalks
I
and
bet. I have not been. I don't get to go over there too much.
it's looking good.
Good.
Hi, Daryl. Glad that you've joined us this evening.
Hi, Linda. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks, Daryl. How about yourself?
Never better. Never better. Thank you.
Well, good to hear it.
Yeah. How's Mama?
Hi, Angel. Glad that you're on the call. Nice to see you, Susan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And Earl's there. Hi, Lonnie.
I've never done this on my phone because I have to go pick up a kid. A few things going on.
Hey, congratulations to your son. My goodness. I didn't realize you had a champion in your
I
household.
know, I was thinking we're gonna see him in the Olympics.
There you
Great,
go.
thank you.
I mean, really,
Yeah,
I could see that.
Hi,
He
Phil.
was gone.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Can you see me?
No.
That's even better. All right. I've got the
Well-
screen up. It says selected public art projects.
Okay.
Right.
Well, that's good. So I think Sally will get started.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone this afternoon to the Arts Commission meeting. I draw your attention to the minutes, anticipating that you've had the opportunity to review the minutes and understanding that there may or may not be any corrections or additions. Could I have those who have concerns speak now? Otherwise, could I have a motion to approve the minutes, please?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And I need a second.
I second.
Thank you very much. Minutes pass. We are very honored this afternoon to have with us Elizabeth Connor as part of our continuing education program here at the Arts Commission. Ms. Connor is a professional artist and educator who's created art for the public realm since the mid-1980s. At this time, commissioned by Arts Washington, she's working to integrate art into Seattle's multimodal ferry terminal at Coleman Dock. Ms. Connor is the artist member of the Seattle Design Commission and also serves on the Seattle Arts Commission's Public Art Advisory Commission. I know that you all join me in welcoming Ms. Connor this evening.
Thank you. It's delightful to be here. And I've appreciated having communication with Sally and with Nikki over the last week as well to get prepared. As part of that, Sally sent me a PowerPoint that had an overview of your public art program, and I'm totally impressed. And I'm really impressed that you're doing this in really tricky times as well. So congratulations. I know it's a huge amount of work. So I picked some projects that I thought might have some relationship to some of the priorities that you listed in that PowerPoint, and just some things that I thought might interest you and maybe provoke some questions. So I'll try and take a little under 10 minutes to do this and show you some of the things I've been up to over the years. So now I have to figure out how to actually make this work. I'm trying to, there we go.
Mhm.
Public art can take a lot of different forms. This is a part of a proposal I made for for Seattle's Cascade and South Lake Union neighborhoods. This is the cover of a book that I actually had printed on a press that actually existed in the Cascade neighborhood in the Spruce Street School, a very old letterpress. And as this was commissioned as part of a proposal for something larger to happen out in the public realm. And so I made this book something that could stand up, that could be seen from both sides, and pose questions relating to what is beautiful and what is a neighborhood, because this neighborhood wasn't necessarily considered beautiful at the time. So this is just some samples of what that book looks like, and it's still rotating within the Seattle Arts Commission's now called Arts Portable Works Collection. This was the precursor to 75 patches with frostproof tiles with imagery silkscreened on them that I've located in various places. Speaking of sidewalks, this was a fairly neglected neighborhood at the time, and so there were a lot of little holes and places that could be patched, and I took that as an opportunity to do some mending, some healing, and also that the title of this was Small Monuments. because I felt that a lot of monuments were maybe too large for the circumstances, and this would spread a lot of imagery that was iconic, important to the neighborhood, throughout the neighborhood in places where you would encounter it and perhaps be surprised. The other thing that I put as part of the proposal was that these might stay or they might not. They're commissioned to be permanent, but that would say something about how much the history of the neighborhood was valued, and also kind of give a bit of a barometer of the pace of change in what is now mostly South Lake Union and undergoing a lot of change again. I am not unaware that the visual arts are only part of what you are up to. You're probably, so there you have performing arts. And this is the first project I ever engaged in. It's a small pocket park on the north shore of South Lake Union, of Lake Union. And so in South Lake Union is a wonderful jewel called the Center for Wooden Boats. So I approached Dick Wagner at the center to ask if he could work with me to design a bench for the space that I was working on with a landscape architect. And I wanted a bench made out of with boat building techniques that could have a couple sitting on one end and somebody on the other end reading and feeling very private on the other side of this. So as part of the dedication, I persuaded them to bring it across the lake straight north. And so this was a bit of a performance in the installation of the piece. And it's still there. It's being maintained as if it were a boat, still by the Center for Wooden Boats. So this is actually called Waterfit Way 15. If you're ever there, it's on North Lake Way. You referenced quite a few times, not the word budget, but sensitivity to the economics of commissioning artwork. One of the strategies I've been happy to engage in over time is to integrate art into infrastructure. And so this is a park and ride project in Puyallup for Sound Transit. Worked with a landscape architect named Jim Yamaguchi. We were sitting around and sort of laughing at the very standard way of park and ride is put together with all this striping, and then it's usually one type of tree at certain intervals, very basic intervals, and cars would park between those trees. So what we did was plant 21 different trees and then identify them in the place where you would see something like a small car. And we identified them by their common names and their botanical names. So this was pretty much a very low budget effort, and it inspired a lot of curiosity among commuters. One of the things you mentioned in your goals were large scale iconic works. So it made me think about what is iconic. And so I'm sort of, so something to think about as I was putting this together. Worked in Charlotte, North Carolina with police for a brand new police and fire training academy. Really wonderful architect I got to work with. And he pointed out the first day that these two entities did not necessarily get along. And he had to actually talk them into working in the same building in two different wings. So I noticed that there's something in common in their logos, which is a hornet's nest, and that goes back to a crazy story about the revolution. Lord Cornwallis, apparently from the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, tried to quell some resistance in the Charlotte area, and he got the message back to England that don't mess with the people in this part of North Carolina. It's a hornet's nest of radical resistance, or something along that nature. So I, for a while, I thought, is this just ridiculous to make a logo into a sculpture? But I worked with Sean Cassidy, who's not the actor, but he teaches at Winthrop, teaches art. He's a sculptor, as am I, and we worked together on a very large hornet's nest for the firefighters. they put this outside. They tend to climb around in that one. And then there are 2 hornets nests as you enter the facility that have details inside, also made by Ray Goodwin, who works in ceramics. And I made some things to put into these nests that relate to firefighting and police history. Sort of continuing on the iconic community related kind of work. For Scottsdale, I did a project for Old Town Scottsdale, which is really very tourist oriented, but it also has a very long-term working and living community that's quite diverse. So I was looking around to see what else I could find besides the obvious, and just in the yard of a church across from the site that I was working on, a Catholic, Adobe Catholic church that was quite old, being restored. I found this, which has a 6-pointed star, and I thought that was really quite interesting, really interesting juxtaposition. And I looked for a lot of others and created work out of iron and also out of colored concrete. There was an ice plant on this site ages ago. There's a wash tub peeking around behind that purple tire. There were women who washed clothes in wash tubs along the canals when they came to move to Scottsdale and didn't have a place to live yet. There's an artist palette. Artists are still flocking to Scottsdale, and made the cowboy hat into a cowgirl hat, and it's blue. There's also cotton that still grows around Scottsdale, which is amazing. So I was looking for things that people really didn't know much about. It was a really interesting kind of research proposition. You wrote, I read about your encouragement of rotating works in your collection, and it made me think about temporary public works. I'll show you two things that I've been engaged in. This is the city of Tacoma. Pacific Avenue. It was renovated as part of a stormwater treatment project several years ago, and I was the artist commissioned to work together with the city on that. So one of the issues was how to keep businesses open during this time period, a year. This is a year's worth of construction on the main commercial street within downtown Tacoma. So it was really significant. I worked on ships. I have a checkered past. So when I was working on ships, I encountered the green flash, which is what you can see under certain atmospheric conditions when you're, especially on the Pacific Ocean. So I thought Pacific Avenue, that's, it doesn't exactly look over the ocean. It's the Theophilus Waterway. However, that was the operating metaphor we used. And this is green astroturf that was put down in order to lead people from one business to another, also get them safely across the street. So it functioned as part of safety and security and keeping people going downtown as well. We also had a character. This person is still semi-anonymous. He's an artist who works on streets with kind of graffiti ethic, but with duct tape, so it's removable. So this is our green flash superhero actually putting a number of different kinds of patterns on in different places along Pacific Avenue. So when these orange Jersey barriers were removed, I've seen them all over Tacoma with these little green strips. They've never taken them off. So it's a project that has migrated. And getting into the woods, I know you are under the umbrella of the Parks Department, if I understand correctly, Parks and Rec. And I think that's a really great place to be. There's so much opportunity for sites. These are temporary interventions that I did as part of a larger group with Jake Seniak, who was the director of the Port Angeles Arts Center, Port Angeles Fine Arts Center in Port Angeles. Jake loved to be outdoors. He died several years ago, unfortunately. And he went out and hacked and sawed and mowed and made all these trails around the museum itself, and then invited people to come and stay overnight, camp out sometimes, and make temporary works. So these are shingles that you can approach from a one angle or another that I actually returned to the tree temporarily. So it occurred to me that I think it's interesting to have existing works that are somehow incorporated into a streetscape, but it's also really interesting to invite people to do something that's low impact and temporary in another way as part of a rotating collection. This is the last one. This is something I did with gold mylar out in an alder thicket. Fell off a ladder a few times doing this. So I think I'll stop it there. I have some other slides that if you have questions, I could pull some of them up if they answer questions. But I'd love to hear what kinds. I'm interested in what keeps you up at night too. You know, what kinds of things that, since I've been kicking around doing this kind of thing for quite a few decades, is there things that you're curious about with process, or you know, how I've worked within various organizations and things like that? I'll open up for questions.
Elizabeth, I was really intrigued with the work that you did with the Hornet's Nest, kind of providing a unifying structure for the police department and the fire department, since they were going to be housed in the same building. We are looking at the theme of unity for developing our Colonial Plaza project, and was wondering what your thoughts on unity might be for Lakewood. What resonates with you right now in terms of things that kind of exemplify that theme?
My response to that, I think, is more how I would find out, more than what I think. I do wander around in Lakewood. However, for me, discovering what that might be is more of a process of engaging with a community to find out what is valued. It's something that I've done it with every project I've ever done, I think, except for perhaps our tree zoo, which was the park and ride. There wasn't, I still talk to some people about that. So I don't want to evade the question. I don't know. I don't know. And that's one of the things that I like about doing public projects, is that I get to be, you know, come in with beginner's mind, a naive, you know, open mind, and find out things that sometimes people in the communities don't, you know, I'll end up talking to some people who don't know each other within a community, and then that's how I'll find out what might, you know, what I might maybe pull together on some level as an artist. Sometimes unity is multiplicity. Sometimes unity is, you know, with the police and firefighters, it was two departments who have really, really different ways of working. I hope that, Linda,
I kind of have a tag on to that, unless Linda, you had a follow-up.
No, I'm just, you know, trying to get a sense as to, because you're an artist, Elizabeth, and I was wondering, like I said, you know, from an artist's perspective, I was very intrigued with the Hornet's Nest and its ability to unify two departments. And so I was just wondering if there were things that you had seen in your continuing work that had, I don't know, exemplified unity in different ways. something that we could perhaps tap into.
Well, I think when I read Large Scale Iconic, it's one of the reasons I started riffing on what I find iconic, because what people value, and sometimes what is valued is gone. There's a project I worked on in the city of Kent where some trees were chopped down. So and they were sweet gum trees, and that people were sad about that. You know, there was a lot of general grief over losing those trees, and it was necessary for the project. And they were replaced, but they still weren't the same. So the work that I did was based on that. So I think sometimes unity is a mutual sorrow. Paige was raising.
Yes, I'm sorry. My son's playing the piano, so I need to keep myself muted.
Yeah.
I'm curious. You said you wandered around Lakewood. Have you had any thoughts about our little community or things that you think are interesting, noteworthy?
I think what's interesting is the amount of change that's occurring. I also find Lakewood really intimate on a lot of levels. I can't tell you exactly where. I can't exactly identify a place that feels like that for me, but it feels very rooted in a place. It doesn't feel transient to me. But I also realized that there's the change going on as well for Lakewood. I've always found it accessible to me. I've found it friendly, even if I weren't talking to someone. It feels like a comfortable place to be for me. I think you're muted, Paige.
One of my favorite things about this New Colonials area is I had the chance to go to Siena, and it has those bricks in that little center square where there's no cars, and people don't even sit on benches there. They just sit on the bricks, and with picnic blankets. And every time I drive past that I just think Siena. So I don't know. I like that idea, intimate, comfortable. Thanks for those words.
I've never seen the picnic blankets on bricks. And if I had been wandering around, that's something that I would have thought of to answer Linda's question. I would have thought of people, possibly strangers to each other, possibly, who knows? Was it many blankets?
Just people. It was just such a gathering place because there were no cars. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
You would park your car outside of the square and walk into it, and I was like, "That's brilliant." And then when they built that, I was like, "Oh my gosh, it looks like Siena." So,
yeah, that's really interesting. I think that says a lot about that particular space. That's how it's used,
it's
and
a
so
cool
that's something I would
space.
pay really close attention to. Kelly, you had something a little while ago, I think.
Yeah, that's really insightful. Thank you so much. We have 2 minutes left, and I told Elizabeth that we could always have her back if we have follow-up, but I did send you 2 questions from Phil Raschke and Susan to answer, and then I have one, and I don't know if you got this in an email, but if you aren't prepared on those, you could always email us.
Did you email them or put them in the chat?
I emailed them.
Oh, hang on. Let me. I'll look really quick.
But in the meantime, I have what I feel is an important question that we're dealing with as we are going forward with our selection process for public art at Colonial Plaza. And that is, obviously you've gone through many processes and meetings with arts commissions as they've narrowed down their artists, and you presented design proposals. When you present a design proposal, you do your research, you have a unique idea. How much do you value or devalue when the Arts Commission says, I like that, but what if, you did this? Does that really get you off track? Or is that something that we should be doing? Like, could you add, this design over here, maybe? Can you speak to that?
I think it's most helpful. Actually, I don't get thrown off by much. Sometimes, but usually not. Because that's what's really interesting about this kind of work is that anything can happen. you know, when I think of unity, I almost think about a whole bunch of people saying different things in the same room, which sounds counterintuitive, but that is kind of what I think of and what I enjoy. I think I think all information is valuable to an artist. I think on the other, sitting on the other side of the table, which I have done, I still do Public Art Advisory Committee. I think what's helpful for, you know, on your side of the table to do is to frame comments based on experience and also ask questions. I don't think it's always helpful to suggest changes to the design, but you know, concerns about the design, including maintenance, are exactly what artists need to hear. You know, all that, it's better for all that information to be out on the table, especially if it's at the proposal stage, rather than, you know, than keep it close to the vest. And I've been in situations where arts commissions do not want the artists in the room during discussion. I strongly prefer the opposite. I think it's really, really good to have that discussion around in the same room, around the same table, because it's more of it saves a huge amount of time, first of all, have everybody sitting at the table. And it's also a really rich kind of conversation that can be had. Often the artist is not coming from the particular community where the Arts Commission resides, and so you are the experts in your where you live. It's, you know, it's respectful of us. We need to respect that. And even if I'm coming from a different, you know, there are times when I was living in one neighborhood in Seattle and I go work in another neighborhood, and people would say, "Why don't we get somebody from this neighborhood?" So it's, you know, it's still whoever it is coming into a new situation. And so for me, it's most valuable to hear kind of unexpurgated what everybody has.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Gosh, it's so informative. I hate to stop this conversation. It's 5:32.
Oh, you can lure me back in again, Sally.
If you found those questions, would you mind responding email and I can share it?
I actually don't see them in my email for some reason.
Okay, I will resend those.
Can you read them to me?
Well, we could, but we have really important,
Okay.
unless the committee wants to, but we've got some voting to do.
For some reason, I don't know why.
So we'll follow up. Luckily, good.
I can send a written response to you, Sally.
Or Susan, one of the questions was yours. How do you feel? Do you want to?
No, I can wait. It's fine. It's not an urgent question.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
You're very welcome. Nice to meet you all, and thanks for doing this work. Big deal.
Thank you for being with us this afternoon, Elizabeth.
You're
It was
very
wonderful.
welcome.
Thank you. We look forward to having you again sometime.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Elizabeth.
Oh. Okay, so moving on. The next item of business is the Public Art Committee report, and Earl is our point person with regard to that. So he has an update for us with regard to the Colonial Plaza. So over to you, Earl.
Well, good evening, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. So our subcommittee was able to interview 6 finalists that have kind of thrown their hat into the ring to do this Colonial Plaza project, and they were given brief history and future vision of the Colonial Plaza. Now, Sally, you had said that there might be the potential of the QFC being apartments with retail on the street level and some cafe and restaurants, and that's future planning, correct?
Correct. So the artists were first invited to an on-site orientation at the Colonial Plaza where staff was present and gave them brief history and then mostly the vision for the future, because that's what the art's going to speak to. And it was mentioned, and Jason knows more, but that the QFC has been bought or is under contract to be purchased, where there'd be apartments on top and then retail on the bottom, essentially bringing more businesses, maybe cafes, restaurants to the area that don't currently exist.
I'm very excited about that, because I mean that something needs to happen with that building. I think we all feel the same way. So I'm very excited about like a project like that actually happening. So of course, you know, the theme of the work is going to be unity. And there's a lot of, in the process of interviewing the different artists, some of the artists had challenged us with some things that we hadn't thought about before. As for one thing that had come up was, where are we going to install this piece of art? Because I mean, meaning we would have to disturb the pavers that have already been set. And sometimes that can be costly and also a little risky to disturb those sandset pavers that have already been kind of laid down in that certain fashion. And then we would have to put a foundation down for some sort of in artwork, I mean, and to support it. So that would be another cost that we had to kind of take another look at. So we held 6 30-minute interviews with each of the 6 candidates. And we had met and we debriefed, we had met and kind of decided on our 2 to 3 artists. That was on last Thursday. And then I think over the weekend, I, for one, kind of started looking at all the artists from a different perspective. And I think I shuffled my 3 around a little bit. I think I still stayed with the same 3, but I think I kind of shuffled mine around a little bit. And then, let's see. So now, Sally, where are we going? Are we going to actually decide on our formal 3 tonight and propose those people?
Yes.
Okay. So I would assume that I know 2, but I don't know the 3rd.
Well, okay, so we will decide on that. Lonnie hadn't weighed in, so she can weigh in tonight. Also, we didn't know about the pavers during those interviews. It's not feasible. I mean, that's clear. It's definitely not feasible financially to put any footings on the pavers. Now, some people, one of the artists in particular proposed something that's movable, which is fine. But that leaves us, and Nikki, I don't know if you called up the map, but I'd like to call up the PowerPoint so we can briefly go through the pics of the artist and the map of where the art can go, but essentially it can go on the cement slabs. And one particular artist was a landscape architect, and that's actually where he proposed it anyways. If you're facing the theater, you have all the pavers, and then it starts turning to a cement slab towards the church. And because it's such a big sprawling area, he said, you know, that's such a natural place to put art because it breaks it up and it warms up the space. So it's certainly not a deal breaker, and it's actually where some of the artists would like their art is on the cement slab. And then there's all the planter boxes. Nikki, do you have that map up that you can share, please?
I'm trying to get it up. Hold on just one second.
And so the planter boxes, which serve as great because there's some benches already built in, so you could have an interactive piece in the planter boxes leading to the bench, or you could have some gateway pieces there. And then of course your natural gateways. So
I'm sorry, PowerPoint.
So this is kind of a continued dialogue given that information. Also, we didn't know, but Preston Singletary was kind of one of the ones we were undecided on because his piece at 90,000 was so kind of watered down or diluted, I guess, of his signature. And he said today that he could not do one of his pieces that would, you'd say, oh, that's Preston Singletary, for under $150,000. So that's a big deal because it means either we increase the budget for everyone to that or ask that it can be, or we stick with the artists that have proposed that they can do something for 90,000 and revisit Preston for another project. And Jason, I hope you'll, and Patty will weigh in on this because that's a city council decision. But those are the things that have changed since Friday, which was our last dialogue. But Lonnie, you could tell us your top 4. And Nikki, are you able to get the PowerPoints up so we can show the artist's work? Because I would like everyone to see it as we go through and mention their names.
Unfortunately, my PowerPoint is not working.
Okay. Is that something I can call up?
Yeah, you can absolutely share it.
Okay, so you can go ahead while I'm doing this. Lonnie, you can go ahead and talk.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. So for those of you who are on the subcommittee, yeah, I wasn't able to see all the presentations live. And sorry, I have a kiddo who's coming out of sports, so this may be a little disjointed conversation here. So I went back and reviewed all the YouTube videos this weekend, which was fantastic. So my number 1 choice I decided was the team of Haddad Drugard. I personally think, just to back up a step, that this initial art piece for me, I think needs to be bigger. I don't know if you call that gateway or, but I feel like it needs to draw some attention from the street. It needs to draw you, it needs to have some bigger impact so that you're coming to the Colonial Plaza. I like the idea of more intimate pieces that are seated within the plaza, but I personally feel like for me, that's a second step. Haddad and Jugan did a great job. I thought it was very clever, just their comments on illumination in the Colonial Plaza, like illuminating the grove of oak trees, illuminating the architecture that already exists on the theater. Whether we can execute those things or not, I don't know, but I think that's amazing. I like their idea of movement and light. And I think they've done, I mean, they've obviously done some very, very big scale pieces, but I think they have done pieces that would fit within either our $90,000 budget, or if we're able to increase the budget, you know, however that discussion goes. So they were my top pick. My second choice was Peter. I don't know, am I going too fast here? I just in interest of time, sorry. I think I like Peter's whimsy. And my top 3 artists for sure, well, actually my top 4 all had made reference, they did some amount of homework on talking about Lakewood a bit and what were interesting features to them. Peter, it would be interesting to see what he can do with our budget, because I think he could do something that is a little bit maybe more visual, that would get you some attraction from the street. But yeah, I don't know. And he definitely does these pieces like that crow where, you know, the French fries are down on the bottom and you could still be interacting and doing selfies with that. Yeah, I just liked his approach to his work. My third choice was Mary Koss. I really like her approach. She had some, I think, very interesting comments about Lakewood. In fairness to her, she was the very first artist that this committee interviewed. So we weren't as savvy with our questions maybe up front. But she was very descriptive of, sorry, my kid's here, hang on a second. Why don't you go in the other seat, I'll drive. Sorry.
Are you able to see the PowerPoint, everybody?
I can see it. I don't know if everybody else can.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and then my fourth choice was John Fleming. and John and Mary were they were real neck and neck for me. I like both of them. And I think John, to his credit, he proposed something that is a little, well, not every artist proposed things the same way. Like Mary Koss, for example, I think did exactly what our request was, which was to present a portfolio of work and have some suggestions of what would happen. Other artists came in, like Preston Singletary came in right away with a proposal of like, this is what I would do for you for your budget. So we have a little bit of apples and oranges comparison there. But John, came up with this very clever bench idea that incorporates maybe some panels of artwork in it. And to his credit, so that's not the bigger gateway kind of thing, visual thing that I have in mind, and that's where I put him in fourth. But I think he was spot on doing that in terms of building something that didn't require the cost of a foundation and would have an impact and fit within our budget. So I'll sum up.
Noting.
Go on.
If you don't mind me interrupting, for those who weren't there, obviously Unity was a big deal. And so the way John incorporated Unity is he researched our website and saw the 25th anniversary contest and was very intrigued by the Gimhe art and the idea of incorporating that artwork like in the bench or in his work somehow. And I think we all appreciated the homework that he did on that. And just going back to Mary Koss, she's known for her metal work, and her proposal for Unity was in this picture. She writes, proverbs and things. I think this represents like 90 different languages that are carved into that metal work. It was amazing. The con to that is you can't really, I couldn't read what those say. I think it's hard to read. But in this piece, this is an example of connecting a gateway, connecting one area to another, like the road to Colonial Plaza. She has experienced time spaces together, and we're looking for a little bit of that as well. Lonnie, did you have anything else? So we heard Lonnie, so that we didn't have that, but I think, she talked about Haddad Drugan, and from the committee, it was between Preston and the Haddad Drugan team, which are a husband-wife team.
Want me to comment more? I mean, I chose the husband-wife team, so.
So I guess the rest of the committee, and we're open, to everyone, if you have questions or input that may inform our decision. Peter, this artist here, and John Fleming were hands down had the most votes. And then it was kind of between Preston and Haddad, and Mary Koss, I feel like, is back in the picture a little bit. So really, I think the discussion is around, if I'm correct, around Haddad Drugan and Mary Koss, unless we're seriously looking at increasing the budget to $150,000. And I need Patty and Jason to comment on that, because I don't know that we can go forward without talking about that.
Sally, just a question that I would have, because I in looking at the slides, I'm really taken with Haddad Drugan. I mean, the use of light and sculpture together, I think it's really lovely. But when I'm looking at the price tags associated with what was presented, I guess I'm wondering whether I should say whether or not they could create something that has the same or similar impact within our budget? Because I'm seeing something that is really wonderful, like I said, but in most cases is 3 times
Yeah.
what we have available to us right now.
Yeah.
If
So,
setting that aside, if I may, I guess I really like Fleming really well. That looked like at a price point that would be in line with what we might have available to us. And I would probably myself put Mary Koss definitely below Fleming. But yeah, that's me, my take on things.
yeah, so I want to, so 2 things. All the artists, definitely they were working with the 90,000 and felt like they could do something that they would want in their portfolio and could be proud of. And that's why they were at the table. That said, Peter Requiem is the only one. He does his own fabrication. So bottom line, we'll get more bang for our buck with him because he will save a lot of money doing that. But yes, they all came forward feeling, except for Preston, feeling like they could do something that they would be proud of in their portfolio. Yeah. Now, I don't think we're starting from the ground up, and that Peter and John were definitely 2 that got the most votes, but the Haddad Mary Koss piece, picking one of those 2, unless we pick 4 artists, are kind of the ones we're choosing from what I see, and correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like we're choosing between Haddad and Mary Koss.
What happened to Preston? Is he out now?
Well, I don't know if you heard what I said about my conversation with him.
Mm-mm.
So he said that he couldn't do anything under $150,000. And so just saying, to inform this conversation, we really can't move forward deciding on our 3rd artist unless we know we're going to for sure increase the budget at this time to $150,000. And that would go for all the artists. It can't just go for one. And that would mean going back to city council, which, I'm open to whatever you want to do, but.
Well, assuming Preston's not in the top 3, I thought we discussed a little bit, maybe going back to be fair to all of them and say, for purposes of creating your designs, show us what you can do at 90 and show us what you could be capable of doing at 150. So that way they all get a shake, the 3 that we select, or 4 if you're talking about that. But see what they can do at 90, and then it's up to us if we want the composition size. Does it include the lighting we want or not? And if they need to go to the 150, we're giving everybody a chance to show us what a design would look like at the 150, or a couple of designs.
So we'll be paying them $1,500 for 2 designs, and that was the 3 finalists. But are you saying, so we have 2, we have Peter and we have John, they got 6 votes each, but then Haddad, Drogan, and Mary Koss and Preston are kind of the 3rd one. So how do we?
What? Yeah, I don't know how the final votes shook out from the subcommittee on the Haddad, Drogan versus Preston, right? And maybe I missed the memo on that, but.
Well, we had several people who were undecided.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're going through tonight, but I think it's hard to make a decision when we know he won't and can't come in at the 90,000 level. So do we pause and go back to city council, or do we say?
Well, I think we go to the next
different
one. I mean,
project?
if you can't give us something that's, going to be worth doing or embracing at the 90, then the others can, but we may want something that's a little bit bigger, and he's barely going to do something at 150. Maybe we do the Haddad, Drogan and Requiem and whatever the other guy is, and say, we have a budget at 90, but if necessary, we'll get council authority to go to 150. So show us what you would design at 90 and what you would design at 150, and we'll make a decision. And we'll get the authority for up to the whatever amount we want.
Okay, so you're saying, well, we'll work with Preston maybe some other time when we have a bigger budget. You're right. I think he needs about 200,000 to do anything really.
Yeah.
I wasn't all that impressed with what he showed in these subsequent photographs today. They didn't, I mean, the bronze would be cool, but I don't know. That's just me.
Nikki, do you have the scoring sheet up that I emailed you about earlier?
I had pulled it up, but I'm having trouble sharing my screen tonight.
Okay, so I don't need you to share it. I just need you to tell me how many votes Hada Drugan had versus Mary Koss.
Could I just interject something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was looking at, the more I look at Peter, his artwork is very interactive. I can see people walking up to any of his designs and wanting to take a picture, that they draw you into it. And they're very creative. I mean, so if you were just driving by, you would notice it. It doesn't, they stand out enough that they attract your attention. Even the hammer there where you can sit down and have a conversation. And for the prices he's posting, you could almost, if you increase the budget, get 2 pieces of artwork out of him.
Or certainly something that's sufficiently substantial for the space. That's been kind of the concern, is you don't want something lost in there.
And you know, oh gosh, I wish all of you could have been on these interviews. They were so informative. But I would say one thing I'm sure about Peter is that he was able to, each community he goes into, he does his research. And he's just like able to distill the essence of that community and then display it in his art. Whereas some other artists said, well, we want you to tell us what's distinctly Lakewood. Well, we want the artist to tell us, and he can do it. And I believe John Fleming can do that equally as well.
Yeah.
That's why those two really stood out. However, they're definitely more on the interactive side versus the gateway side, which is fine. And then Hada Drugan and Mary Koss are more on the gateway side of things. But we either need to pick both of those or pick one. And so for all of those who are undecided about Preston on the committee, this is your time to decide between Hada Drugan and Mary Koss, unless you feel strongly we want 4 finalists, which will just dilute their, it'll come out of the budget.
So Sally, you had 3 for Hada Drugan and 2 for Mary Koss from last night's, or from the previous votes.
Okay. And then I know several of you had Preston for Adrian. I know you had Preston as your 3rd. So any of you that had Preston for your 3rd, if you just put him aside, let's go back to Hada Drugan and Mary Koss, and you can just see the type of thing they do. And I'll ask you all, any of you who were undecided, and that's on the sheet as well, Nikki, that maybe you could remind everyone who was undecided or had picked Preston as their 3rd, that, so that, and then I'll go to Mary Koss.
Now, I like that one of Mary's. The ripple effect one is kind of interesting, but
Ariani, do you have any thoughts on if you choose either of those 2 artists, the Hada Drugan or Mary Koss, or is that a difficult thing to ask? And in the meantime, Nikki, who else was undecided on that sheet?
I had Preston as my 3rd. So,
Oh, okay, thank you.
You know, I have the same concern as Linda voiced with regard to the impact of the Hada Drugan and the price tag. That does worry me a little bit. the
Well, we
cer-
have to remember it'll shake out in the design
yeah.
when they propose their designs. It has to be spot on with the budget.
Yeah, I'll probably go with Haddad Drugan, having faith that they know, that they articulated, they know what the budget is.
Yeah, they're gonna, and they are professionals. I mean, so it's not like they're their first time, and they were curious enough about our project, even knowing the budget to begin with, to kind of throw their hat in the ring. And you know, like I had expressed in, you know, in an email on Friday, I mean, I just keep on kind of going back to their work because it seems that the site itself needs to be the piece of art rather than just a piece of art going in the site. And that's kind of what's sticking in my mind. And how they had mentioned about lighting up the Gary Oaks and lighting up the theater to complement whatever work they put in there, really kind of shook me, you know, and kind of made me more attracted to them because therefore the whole, if the site was a piece of art, it would be both interactive and both a gateway. And that's kind of just my 2 cents on it.
Well, the thing that's kind of nice, Earl, I like your thought there, is with assuming Haddad Drugan would be the third on the list, which I would put my vote in for them too, for, you know, because I think I was lined up with Preston as well. And then if we just can't make it with the budget with him, then we have to choose somebody else. I'd be fine with these folks. I think it's nice is with those 3 selections, you get the opportunity to have 2 designs from each one. And someone like Haddad Drugan might be more gateway oriented, whereas Requiem might be much more the smaller, intimate, interactive piece. So it gives you some real choices.
Exactly.
Then the committee can take a look at the choices. We'll get 6 designs from the 3 artists. Some might be gateway-esque, some might be more interactive and intimate. So it's a good opportunity.
I mean, I agree with everybody's comments about, you know, the price tags on, you know, the Haddad Drugan, but I'm also very curious to see what they're going to bring to the table.
And for those of you,
I want to be clear about that, though. I'm going to go to council and talk to them tonight and say that we want some authority to go up to 150 so that we have a range of potential designs at the 90 and at the 150. So we can see what we can get.
So just to be clear, we want to ask each artist, they'll get the 1,500 for 2 designs. One will be a $90,000 design and one will be a $150,000 design.
I think that's a good way to go.
Okay, and Ariani, are you there? I just want to make sure you get your vote in. And then Patty, also I had Preston as your 3rd choice. Is that, where are you with your 3rd choice?
Ellie, neither one of them are on the line tonight.
Pardon?
Patty's not on the line.
Okay.
And neither is Ariani.
Okay.
Patty,
so we're at 4.
Yeah.
4 for, okay. Let me just double check this. But for those of you who weren't there, the Haddad Drugan team had mentioned that by uplighting the Gary Oaks in the front park, it makes a really natural and inexpensive gateway. And that's what Earl was referring to. Okay, so currently Haddad Drugan have 4 votes and Mary Koss has 2. Now, depending on what Ariani and Patty say, we could be somewhere else unless we make a vote. I don't know how this works.
I'll text Patty right now.
And then Jason, if we have our 3 finalists, then we go ahead and ask them for those design concepts. I do an update May 17th on city council on the art. And we don't make a recommendation to city council, I don't believe, until we actually have those designs back in, correct, and have evaluated those designs.
Right.
Okay. So the second step is, after I hear back from Jason, I'll reach out to the 3 finalists, but we need to talk about the timeline and how long we want to give the artists to come up with these 2 designs. I was really advised to not rush that end because you want to really give them time to come up with their concepts and designs, and that it doesn't need to include the details of the engineering, but it does need to be a fleshed out design that they know they can do within budget.
Sally, what was the time frame that we had given Perry?
Oh, this is a completely different process, I believe, but
well, to come up with some concepts, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at that, Linda. I don't know off the top of my head.
It might be worth you reaching out to them, Sally, and just asking them what they think they would need by way of time. You know, and if they say, shoot, we can do it because we spent a bunch of time thinking about it, we could give you our concept in 30 days or maybe 60 or 90. I'd leave it up to the artist to give us a little direction on that.
Okay.
Don't you guys think? Because otherwise it's a little artificial.
Well, I have some notes from the city of Tacoma of the timeline they give their artists, and boy, they've done a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to find our time to stay on track. But if we did 6 weeks, that would put us at June 14th. And then it would leave the following week for interviews for them to present their ideas to us. And it would allow us to come back in our meeting in July to vote and make a recommendation as a committee, as a commission.
That sounds good.
Yeah,
I like it.
Here's the timeline. Let me just peek at it. But right now, I just want to compliment everyone because we are, spot on for the timeline. So I feel really good about that.
Sally, can I ask a question?
Of course.
Just, especially for some of the new members on the commission that may not know. We did go through this process before, and maybe Jason, you can kind of speak to this. What were some of the pitfalls that, for no fault of anyone's, what were some of the pitfalls that came to the surface in the initial selection process? And what do you think we learned from that?
With Perry?
Yes.
Oh, I can speak very quickly and just definitively. We went through and we requested designs, unpaid for designs, right in the call, and without an on-site orientation, without reviewing their past work. And so they just submitted a proposed design. And this is fundamentally different, and we're having them interview on their past work to see if that's the type of work we're even interested in. Can they do a project at this scale? What does it look like? What does the finished product look like? And paying them for their design so that they're really putting a lot of thought and energy into it and getting compensated for it. I would say those are the 2 biggest things, is the process itself of the call to artists versus going from a short list and researching and evaluating the artists and whittling it down to, your top 20.
I think too that her process, Daryl, was a little bit design up as opposed to budget down. I think when she, finally got around to finalizing her design and then went out to spec it with her construction people, she was challenged, I think, doing it for the $100,000, and I think she bailed. Basically. That's why I'm always been concerned about a $90,000 budget when the first one didn't go very far, to be honest. And just being realistic, because we're also telling them they got to do the underground work and substructure stuff, and it's just too hard to do it at 90.
You know, I
Yeah.
see Patty's on the call. Patty, no, she's not. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. You can carry on.
So that was my thought, having gone through that process.
Thank you.
And others may have, you know, opinions, but it was certainly a learning experience. And I think the other piece is I hadn't consulted with other, you know, in terms of best practices, like with the city of Tacoma, and now they're just mentoring me every step of the way.
So Sally, could you recap for us where we're at right now, independent of Patty weighing in or Ariane?
Okay, so in terms of votes, Peter Requiem and John Fleming have 6 votes each, and Hada Drugan is coming in third with 4 votes currently, and Mary Koss has 2, and then Ariane and Patty have not put in their final vote. So it's looking like the Hada Drugan team, but we'll know after I email them. And I can let you know via email. Does that sound good?
And then you're going to need me to do my fancy footwork with Patty and get some authority so that you can go back to these artists, whoever the 3 are going to be, and say, give us a design at 90 and one at 150.
Yeah, I certainly won't contact them till I know
Yep.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah.
If I can't get it from council, Daryl said he's going to cough it up. So.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Daryl. We really appreciate that.
You know, we knew we had you on this committee for a reason. Daryl.
Yeah.
Very
And Sally, you're going to
I
follow
thought it
up
was for
then?
comedic reasons myself.
I'm sorry, Sally, you're going to follow up then with the artists to get a time frame on when they could provide their conceptual designs. So
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Almost likely not reach out to each individual artist, but to the city of Tacoma and confirm with them. I have it written down actually. They've done it so many times. I don't know that we need to call each artist unless you want me to do that, but that could get sticky, I think.
I, however, am pretty excited about this. I mean, I kind of echo Jason's comments on the fact that I think these 3 would give us a very diverse selection of pieces that we can choose from. And, you know, the Hada Drugan would be, you know, more spacious, and then Peter would be more of a singular kind of piece. And then John Fleming, I really like John Fleming's work and how he researched a lot of the communities that he's worked in, and he's taken elements from those communities, incorporated them into the art. So I think these 3 choices would really give us a diverse selection that we can choose and make this project what it's supposed to be.
And it's probably worth noting that the Historical Society was closed. One of the artists had tried to go there to do his homework, which is fantastic. But just a reminder to the committee, we'll really want to make sure that we can open that for several hours and give the artists a chance to get in there.
Good idea.
Prior to doing their design.
Good point.
Okay. So are we ready to move on then?
Yeah.
Sally, okay. So Earl, our next item on the agenda is the utility box wraps update.
Well,
Sally?
I was gonna say, Earl, I didn't update you on that. So I'll just speak to that really quickly. I talked to the print shop. So Print Shop Northwest went out and did the measurements. The next step is deciding what art goes on which box. And then working with the artist to get a high enough quality resolution to fit that box. It's getting quite complicated. And, but so I'm just drilling down on that a little bit. And certainly when we get to that point, we'll have a meeting, public art committee meeting to decide what art goes where. But long story short, the paintings don't translate nearly as well because they aren't digital. So you can't get as high of a resolution. But anyhow, I'm working with the print company and we're plugging away, but they were back ordered. So it took them it took them till today to get back to me.
Gotcha. And then we settled on 4, if memory serves me.
Right. We got approval to do 4 boxes.
Okay.
Exciting.
Right. So Sally, can you continue on with the mural update then?
Yeah, so the mural is happening. It's taking place at Clover Park High School.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And it's about diversity. And I asked Grant Twyman, who's the diversity, equity, and inclusion coordinator at Clover Park School District, to please email me any pictures that I can share of their work. I believe the students have sketched out their concepts, and they're meeting in person at the school with the artist, and it's plugging along. So it will definitely be something that we can have at the 25th anniversary celebration, September 18th. And on that note, we will want to print out the art from the 25th anniversary art contest. And I would love any expertise on what that might look like, how we might put a display up at that event. And you can email me or contact me after the meeting or later this week, but I really need some ideas around how to best do that, because it's about 120 or 140 pieces of art.
Okay. And then the last item on the agenda is participation in the 25th anniversary celebration with regard to the Performing Arts Committee.
Right. So I reached out to Paige about having her band play, and I would just we need to, and we should table this to another meeting, I think, but how we want to be involved, how this committee wants to be involved in that celebration. It's at the Colonial Plaza. It speaks to art, it speaks to performances. What do you want to be your signature at that event? How do you want to present to the community, if at all? But it's a great opportunity. Of course, the 25th anniversary contest is ours, so that would be one thing that we can do.
So it's an opportunity to think about some other things that we could weave into that celebration. And so if we table that until our next meeting, it gives us the opportunity for everyone to think about how that may translate for that event.
Right.
In addition to having Paige perform. Okay.
Yes. And I guess, yeah.
Does anyone have anything else that they would like to share at this time? Okay. Well, with that said, I think we've come to the end of our meeting this evening. Thank you all for participating. It was wonderful having Ms. Connor with us, and look forward to good news from you, Jason, with regard to your bid to get our budget increased for public art at the Colonial Plaza. So thank you, everyone, and have a good evening. And for those mothers, happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Good
Good
to see you, everyone.
Good to see you, everyone.